Well, good evening there, and I hope you're well. Trusting I find you in a good place, in a good space. I'm not sure if it's morning, noon, or night, but it's certainly glad that you've checked in on us. And this evening's midweek devotional, I've just had such a challenging kind of time in my heart talking about moderation. You know, we hear about the keys to modern life, and we hear about the keys to longevity and success in exercise and success in dieting and success in lifestyle, is that everything has to be in moderation. We can have practically anything we want, but we need to have the right amounts of those things in order to keep ourselves safe. Of course, there are things that it seems it's impossible to have in moderation, and those things tend to consume us completely. And then we get completely caught up and lost in this new reality. But the encouragement that really stood out for me, quite profoundly so, is everything in moderation. How do we do that? How do we achieve that? And the scripture I want to share with you is Matthew chapter 12, verse 28 to 27 to 29. And I'm going to read this evening from the Message translation. And there's some controversy around this, but the truth of the matter is I like to read all different translations and compare them with one another to really get the full gist of what the Lord is trying to tell us. So I'm quite challenged by this because, to set the scene, the Pharisees are in the temple, and as usual, they're kind of giving Jesus a hard time. He is a bit of a radical. He has kind of come along with some what seem to be strange and amazing ideas, but really are simply the truthful expression of God's love and its absolute standards. And they come to him and they say to him, well, you know, what is more important than sacrifice, and what is more important than obedience, and what's more important than, and they're essentially trying to trap him. And he gives them this answer. He says, Jesus says, first in importance is listen. Israel, the Lord your God is one. And love the Lord your God with all your passion and prayer and intelligence and energy. And here is the second. Love others as well as you love yourself. There is no command that ranks against these. In fact, some translations say there is no law that can dispute these two things. The prophet Isaiah, much earlier than this, speaks of the coming of Christ and says, your sacrifices are insufficient. The blood of bulls and rams and all these things that are required in the Mosaic law, they're there, but they really aren't the fullness of what's actually available to you. And it kind of challenged me quite a bit. Everything in moderation. Perhaps the one thing that we should maybe be challenged not to do in moderation is to seek the Lord's purpose, is to love him in the ability of our heart and our mind, is to share that love with others, to share that truth with others. And if we can't say it and we can't use words, that we use our actions, that we use our life, and that we use our being as a very expression of his truth. So I want to challenge you today in the way that I've been challenged for many years, as I read about the ancient monk and philosopher Francis of Assisi, who said, every day and every way, I tell everyone about Jesus. Nothing moderate about that. He says, but when I absolutely have to, I use words. May the Lord bless you. Have a good evening.